everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Catherine, and I'm very excited to be back. I did not end up making a July wrap up in a August TBR because I didn't, and yeah. And then I thought, well, in the middle of the month-ish, why don't I just do a video about books that I like and books that I've read and my favorite genres. And yes, I did mention those back in my introduction video in July, but I didn't really elaborate on what I really loved. I feel like that would be a good idea to do before my September TBR and my September wrap-up, which I do plan on doing. Yeah. So, I'm going to talk about my favorite genres. First off, my most favorite genres of all time that I can't choose between my favorite because I love them so much is fantasy and historical fiction. I love them. That's all I love to read. And I just love them so much. As you can tell, I have my fantasy behind me on the bottom shelf and my historical fiction behind my head. And I just want to tell you about my most favorite books. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So, let's begin. My favorite historical fiction book of all time is Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre is one of those books where it just changes your perspective about any other book in that genre. Once I read that, I didn't want to go back to any other genre because I was fascinated with the language and everything about it, and it just captivated my heart. It's my most favorite book. I love it. And yes, I've read it once. And yes, I've watched some movies. I can't get enough of it, even though I need to read it again. We'll do that. I'm doing that in September. So, I read it back in January of 2017. I read it in a week. I did a thing where I read a book a week, and I stopped that around May because it just got to be too much. And while reading it, I was just in awe about Charlotte Bronte's writing and the way that she could use different characters from different worlds, basically. Jane having grown up with her horrible aunt and her cousin, spoiler alert, sorry, and then going on to this horrible girls' school where she was just not happy and made a best friend, and then leaving and going to this whole new place to help be a, what's it called? A governess. When she was a governess, a little French girl, and when she meets Mr. Rochester and she hates him, and then they fall in love, but the way they fall in love is such a different way of falling in love than people think of today. And I love that about historical fiction. Charlotte Bronte used her different backgrounds and intertwined them over time through the book to really show how much they are in common and how much they are right for each other. Reading it just made me really want to live in that time period, and while reading it, I felt like I was, and it was just amazing. And that is why that is my most favorite historical fiction book. Charlotte Bronte and her two other sisters, Anne Bronte and Emily Bronte, all wrote books. Charlotte Bronte wrote 2 books, Anne wrote 1 book, and Emily wrote 1 book. Emily wrote Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights is what I'm reading right now. And Wuthering Heights is so different from what Charlotte wrote. Charlotte Bronte, the way she wrote made me really understand Charlotte's writing more, if that makes any sense. Because reading Wuthering Heights, it took me a long time, to follow everything what was going on. And once I got it, I was like, ooh, this is good, I like it. And then I feel like Emily Bronte's work in Wuthering Heights, Charlotte Bronte is more of a love story. It's like this hatred between Mr. Rochester and his estranged wife, who's crazy, and then learns about her and saves Mr. Rochester's life, and they fall in love through the fact that they have to save each other, and it's just really cool how that works. So that is why I love Jane Eyre, because it's just amazing, and it really, really made me fall in love with historical fiction. And I want to do a video where I compare and contrast their different works, because that's really cool to me, and I just really want to learn about how they are different but the same, if that makes any sense. That's my historical fiction favorites. Now on to fantasy. Okay, I just want to say something about this. fantasy is one of those things where I leave my world and go to this other place, and I feel like I'm living in that place. That's why I love it so much too. And okay, my most favorite fantasy series is Harry Potter. I cannot get enough of it, and those of you who will be watching my future videos will soon learn that I love Harry Potter a lot. And I love the characters. I love it, love it, love it. I love how J.K. Rowling can write this series and just captivate the reader's mind with all these different characters and good and evil and love and courage and all these different aspects of these different characters in this world, where while reading it I felt, I don't even know, I just felt like reading it like I was in this world that existed in real life, even though it didn't, I know, but still, when I first started reading it, I was actually reading it with my family. My mom would read us a little bit each night, and I soon started reading it by myself, and then my aunt introduced the movies to us, and I loved them. They're amazing. I like to watch parts of the movies and watch movies before I read the books, because when I'm reading the books, usually I tend to get lost on what the characters are in relationship to, and I tend to get confused like that. So I watch the movie so I can see the people in my mind while I'm reading it, and it really helped me focus. Kind of like what I did with Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights was one of those books where there's so many different characters that I couldn't really understand what was going on all the time, and I really needed to watch the movie, but I didn't want to because I didn't want to be spoiled. But it came to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm going to watch it. So I sat down and watched it with my aunt, and it really helped me read the book and understand who was who, and it really helped me understand everything, you know. So that's what I like to do. So now you know my top favorite fantasy fiction series. I don't have a favorite book because there's just so much out there that I love. I can't choose, you know, so I'm just gonna stick with this series. Contemporary. I haven't really read much contemporary. I've read a little bit, and probably out of everything that I've read, which isn't much because I don't love contemporary, but I try to read it sometimes, you know, keep myself in that contemporary mode. So my top favorite contemporary would probably be John Green's The Fault in Our Stars. I really, really enjoyed that book. I read it in probably 3 days a couple years ago before the movie came out, and I watched the movie. They did a wonderful job with the movie. Oh my goodness, they're so good. I've read all of John Green's books: The Fault in Our Stars, Paper Towns, Looking for Alaska, and The Abundance of Catherines. The Abundance of Catherines is probably my second most favorite book out of John Green's. I really love it, and I read all of his books, so that's my favorite contemporary is John Green's The Fault in Our Stars. I'm glad that you guys got to see all the books I love to read, and I am really excited to be sharing with you throughout my BookTube channel the different books I'm going to be reading, and please recommend stuff for me. I have a lot of books I need to read, but I love knowing what's out there so I can, you know, pick them up in the future if I want. So this is all for this video. I'm very happy y'all got to see what I love to read and what I have read. I am very excited to share with you the rest of my BookTube stuff. So I'll see you soon. Bye!